Kevin, to you, young Peter.
Yes, Kevin here. I have often wondered whether the adversarial parliamentary system is one of the major causes of the problem we're experiencing. And that coupled with the sense that you are subject to the whip, which is a power structure as much as anything, is inimical to the use of an MP's conscience. And it seems to me that addressing that, or at least being able to identify how it impinges on the issues you're talking about, then we're not addressing one of the main causes. I don't know how you feel about that.
I'm quite sure that you're right there. I think the voting system is basically one that is tribal, it is adversarial, and certainly politics in that building is very adversarial and is not conducive towards truth. Sometimes have a look at the Senate and the debates that are broadcast from the Senate. It is much more, a much less adversarial way of doing politics. It is much more a question of developing agreement. And I think that comes with the voting system. People have always written off the idea of different systems producing fragmented government, and of course it does. Whereas with our existing first past the post system, you get 350 MPs on one party and a lesser number on the others, and that is how you achieve government. Now, with proportional representation or some other form of different voting, you get small parties, you get the Green Party, you get various, you might have 20 different parties, 30 different parties within the parliamentary building. They've then got to find ways of working together. They've then got to find ways in which what they want to achieve matches with somebody else, what someone else wants to achieve. So I'm quite sure that that is one of the systems. The other one, which I intensely dislike, as you mentioned, is the whipping system. Politicians are not able, MPs are not able to vote with their conscience unless they are specifically allowed the opportunity to do that. And that just isn't good enough. I mean, my MP just votes with the whip every single time. I get the notifications of how she's voted, and I look at them, but I know what they're going to say. That she votes aye, and 295 other people vote aye, and 200 vote nay. It's the same with every single vote. I don't really know what she feels she is doing for her constituents within Parliament. I'm sure she's doing work for constituents outside of the Parliament building, outside the actual parliamentary discussions. But one doesn't see it. One only sees a very tribal, single-party version of truth and ability. So there is so much that needs to be changed. But I mean, proportional representation, for instance, we've still got the Labour Party saying no to that, and the Conservatives are bound to stick with it. So when's it likely to change? It could go on for a few more generations, but I don't know we've got a few more generations with the climate crisis in the state that it's in. We need to be making big changes now, but I don't know how we're going to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, from the when you mentioned about the Westminster Hall debate, I thought that was supposed to get rid of the adversarial bit, but actually they were debates that weren't voted on, and it was individual MPs bringing up the issues locally and nationally that were to them, and then there could be a debate without a whip and a thing, but you bring in the minister that's responsible, so you're trying to influence the minister in debate without it actually being to a vote. There's a way around that. That's my understanding, but I'm not sure how well it works, but it's
Yes. Well, the thing is, I myself have sometimes occasionally been in that parliament myself. And the one thing I've discovered in parliament, even when I was a very young girl lobbying them, is that the truth goes out the window in parliament. And where Keir Starmer is concerned, he should be making a stand on anti-Semitism. And not only that, he should be making a stand for young people. And Keir Starmer should be taking the sides of the strikers and put on these videos that the strikers have influenced him a little bit, but he should do a lot more. And where democracy is concerned, the Tories are making this country look like a South American dictatorship. And how do I know? Because I'm South American myself. And getting back to Starmer, he should roll up his shirt sleeves, come down to Charlton and out and perhaps to meet youngsters that are starving and suffering. That's what he should be doing.
I always think the building itself is symbolic of the problem. The chamber, as they call it, is designed for bipolar confrontation, and it doesn't encourage the kind of thing we're talking about. We have to thank God that there is a committee system. The select committee system actually is where an awful lot of the real central business happens. And thank God for the debates in Westminster Hall and so on. But I suppose the reason I raise this is if we could get people to see the chambers of parliaments around the world, they'd see that ours was the most screwy of them all, really, and they'd realise there's something about the nature of the problem. So, yeah, it's a building job, maybe.
To go back to Jeremy Corbyn, initially he criticised the way the Palestinians were being treated by the Israelis, and quite rightly, that it's evolved into being called anti-Semitism. And to my way of thinking, to criticise the clear bad treatment of the Palestinians shouldn't be described as anti-Semitism.
Okay, I saw a conference this morning in July. One of the speakers was Andy Flanagan, and he's CEO of Christians in Politics. And the things that he was saying tied very much with me, and he was talking very much about, in secular terms, good governance, but for people of faith, sort of working for the common good. And he was sort of following on from the book that he wrote in about 2015.
Sorry, I was man with a motorbike going round and round and round.
Okay. So I'll just, yes, I say Andy Flanagan was one of our keynote speakers at our Swanwick conference, and he's CEO of Christians in Politics. And what his stance was, getting people together to talk. So he was from the Labour Party, but they had the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats have their own sort of organisations which come together as Christians in Politics. And he was talking about the absolute need for good governance in sort of faith terms, the common good and working together. And his book is called Just Show Up. And he was chiming with what you said when he was talking about appreciate and congratulate the good things that are happening, and don't necessarily always focus on the bad, however much we do need to challenge those and change them. But his sort of theme was, you don't have to be a member of Parliament, but you have to just show up to any debate, whether it's your local authority, the town council, the local community people. And I'm just wondering how people like your own organisation could work together with others and do chime with the kind of things that he would have been saying, and how we all do work together for a better future. I'm not sure if it's a question, but it was sort of saying he was saying similar sort of things to the things that you were saying. And the thing that came away from the conference is, so what do we do? We profess to be people of faith, but it's the same question that you're asking and trying to come up with answers with your statement. So his thing is just show up. And so it seems that there are a lot of people who with concerns. So what would your response be to that?
Can I just, because I have a very similar point, so maybe then you can answer the same time. So two things. One was this idea about giving positive feedback. I've just had so many conversations recently with people who say, oh, they're all same shower of people, it's corruption, no point in doing anything about it. Really, really depressing conversations. And I'm going to tie that into involved in other things with one of our local MPs, who I have to say we meet him regularly, very impressive. And I keep citing him as an example of somebody who's trying to do something positive. So I just, like I'm saying, I think it'd be really good to hear about how we could be doing more to, reinforce the positive behaviour and give those examples to people who are really feeling they're a shower, no point in talking to them. And the second thing was sort of related about working with other groups. Our West London Justice and Peace Network had a speaker from the Catholic Union of Great Britain, and we didn't know much about them beforehand. They claim to be non-party political. They have members from across the different parties. But I would thought some of the issues that you're raising should be very much at the heart of what they do. So in terms of other groups that you might want to reach out to, I think there'd be one that would definitely be worth talking to.
I'm brought to think about George Monbiot, what you were just saying. And Monbiot, of course, currently is talking about a 25% that is the tipping point for social action. And he exampled in his article this week the equality in marriage situation, which 20 years ago was virtually not on the table at all. And now, in his words, now that the war is over, everyone is in the resistance. So it's the way in which social change comes about, and it's by getting to that tipping point, and that tipping point is 25%. To get to that 25%, I'm quite sure we need faith groups, and we need all faith groups. So we need to be right across all the different faiths. And we need non-faith groups. So we have to be very, very open to where we get our allies from. And I think that expression, just turn up, I think very well expresses what needs to happen. What I would love to see coming out of this meeting today would be some idea of how we could begin to move that forward within Catholics. How can you take back to your particular groupings what we have said, our declaration, to see if that declaration is something that you could ally with, or maybe we might need to get together and to slightly rewrite that declaration to be something that both groups could ally with. And then we need to be moving on to all sorts of other faith groups and non-faith groups to get them signing up to the same principles. And I would very, very much like to know how that could come out of this meeting.
I think we've got a very unusual issue here, which we are clearly all approaching from a common spiritual basis, without doctrine getting in the way. It's marvelous. So it applies within Christianity and beyond Christianity. We can all come to this and say we need to approach the world in a spiritual light. So that's our starting point, which provides tremendous potential. As to what we can do, what does it mean? Just show up where? Show up how? The little things that we are doing, we've started letter writing groups, and Peter's been the driving force behind this, so that where someone, usually a politician, not always, demonstrates particularly laudable behaviour, takes a risk, stands out against their own party, someone like Dominic Reed, before he was private of Britain, we would write to them and say we appreciate the stand you took in favour of the truth and integrity. And I think almost invariably we get a very appreciative reply, because most of the messages they get are attacking them in some way or another. So that's one small way in which we can try and change the climate. We are going to hold, or have done already, a series of webinars in which we interview prominent people. It has been involved in some of them, but they were very small, sort of shakedown exercise, but we hope to move in the new year to much bigger webinars, which in theory will be open to anyone. To help bring this issue to greater prominence. And the other thing which Peter mentioned is the Truth and Integrity Award, which we are planning. This is brand new, and you can help get it off the ground. Again, this is based on the principle of shining the light on the good, and by implication, the light on the bad. And we will be making a national award each year to an organisation or an individual who has done something particularly meritorious. So we're open to suggestions. If anyone comes immediately to mind, quite a tricky thing to do, because you don't want to alienate the entire Conservative Party by nominating someone they don't like. And desirably contain an element of personal sacrifice and risk, that you're not just an official doing your job, but someone who, like a whistleblower, stands up actively for truth and integrity as they see it.
So can you pass that information on to our network when you've got specific plans in mind?
Well, the details are online. If you type in Greater Truth, that will take you to our website, and then under more pages you will find information about the award.
Okay.
And I don't know, we're open to suggestions from anywhere. We're also looking for an award group. That would be a Quaker group. But if allied groups are interested in this and support it, we'd be very happy to consult. In terms of further action, I think we have a distant vision of a rainbow coalition of faith groups coalescing around this issue. We can go to Parliament, and the delegation to Parliament was last week, 2 weeks ago, not a faith group, so there's a precedent there. That we could go to Parliament and say, this is what people of faith are thinking. Not just Anglicans, not just Methodists, seeks. You pat it on the head and say, yes, that's very meritorious, off you go. But people who are representing a substantial slice of the electorate and a substantial slice of MPs themselves, I think we just stand a much better chance if we broaden it out. And then I think we really might have to sit up and take heed. And that would also feed into what we were saying before about them and us, and that was adversarial nature of the House of Commons and many democratic systems. I remember once going to the Bundestag in Germany, we instructed it was encircled. And somehow the European Parliament is encircled. And although some very hard-hitting things can be said, the atmosphere is different. We're all part of something bigger. And here in our Parliament, we're all huddled together, not in a room for everyone to sit down. But behind the scenes, the MPs we've spoken to, and this was also my experience many years ago when I was an Australian diplomat and saw politicians in action in other countries, you get delegations coming through, they all got on famously, and the party distinctions faded away because they had so much more in common. And I think the same is true in this country. They put them on the public stage and then they suddenly feel they have to become highly adversarial instead of discussing the issues dispassionately. Great shame.
Well, that's what public see, isn't it? That's that's what everybody sees.
Yes.
And they don't see the other stuff that goes on, and that's the reason. I'm sure I went to the Welsh Parliament for something like that. I'm sure looking down, and they were more or less in a. You'd stand, you have your stall, you have a stall at the top, and looking down, and you're right. The setup is very important, isn't it?
Wasn't the distance in Parliament between parties? It's based on two organs. It's like each other days gone by.
I can't hear you, Angela, sorry.
Sorry?
I can't hear you, sorry.
Oh, I'm trying to. We're talking about the Senate and Cardiff being in the circle and better. Is there, of course, in Westminster, the way the parties are divided, it's based on two sword guns. From when things might get really bad.
So that's really why we're here today, because we're going to win the NJPN exec that Quaker friends were setting up this group, this Truth and Integrity group, through Sue actually, wasn't it? Through Peter, and he conveyed it to us. We thought this is great, we really need to be involved in this. So we said, yes, please, we would like to be involved. And subsequently we invited them to come and address our network. So that's, if you're wondering why it's happened the way it has today, that's why. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for your questions.